Hello, Dantes. Welcome to Ruddy X the Sack interview. It's long anticipated. We found you. You're wearing the only clothes that apparently you own.
Yeah, I have like 6 of these in my closet. Don't own any shirts or anything like that, so I've just been swapping them out.
He did actually come down into the lobby and greet me in this, and I just thought, yeah, of course he's wearing that. Why wouldn't he be? Right, so on to the questions. I obviously haven't learned how to remember any of my questions, so I still read them from the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You've got on Challenger on NA, EU West, and Career as well.
Yep.
You're also a challenger for the title of Most Autistic Streamer, alongside LS and Hums. How do you think that title race is going? Do you think you're going to be able to win it this year?
I mean, honestly, so the only problem is that when you're neurodivergent, right, it's like it diverges into one of two paths. You can either be challenger or you can be autistic. So that's why the only issue is that the better at the game I am, the worse off I am mentally. But then the better off I am mentally, the worse at the game I am. So that's why it's like, if I can be Hearts like D1 Masters until the end of the year, I'm pretty sure I could be the most autistic. But if not, it's looking rough for me.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's a major point of deliberation. So it's something to consider for the viewers as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What do they want, really? You know, do they want success or do they want...
or do they want someone to laugh at? Because that's the thing about me is that a lot of the time the people that watch me, right, it's like some people might watch to support, some people might watch to learn Heckram, but most people would tune into my stream because no matter how bad their day is going, they know my day is going worse. It's like, sure, a viewer, his mom might be dead, like his dog got ran over by a car, his like pregnant wife got like kicked in the belly or something. But it's like, I just lost 2 games in a row. Yeah. So what could you even compare to that?
There's just nothing. There's nothing available within the human condition, just sort of out there.
Exactly.
We'd have to sit here. Are you familiar with the Shakespeare's monkey theory?
No.
It's the idea that because of the impossible variables that are present in our universe, you could put a group of monkeys in a room with a typewriter, and eventually, just because of probability, they would write a Shakespeare play. You'd have to get so many monkeys to be able to write something that was as bad as you losing 3 games in a row.
Oh, no, I don't even know if it'd be possible, honestly.
You get a whole zoo.
You'd need multiple zoos. Honestly.
Multiple zoos.
Yeah.
My next question is, I saw a tweet from you recently where you were talking about how your brother used to beat you up when you were younger.
Yep.
And it sexually aroused you, which is just, you know, I'm an open-minded person. I'm a relatively liberal person. I don't like to shame anyone, but I just wanted to talk to you about that and kind of understand that because me personally, my brother's younger than me, so you know that would never happen. But my dad, like he used to unleash a lot of like tech and combinations on me.
So the thing about
I've never got a boner from it though, even if he was landing 30-hit tech and combos.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing about it, right, is that my brother, it used to turn me on, but I've only been spanked one time. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was one time where I was misbehaving. At one point, my dad said, "Come here," and he put me over his knee.
Yeah.
And he spanked me. And after that, it's like most kids, they'd sit there, they'd scream, right?
Yeah.
They'd say, "Ow," right? Whatever it might be. I just said, and then after I made that noise, right? After I made that noise, he just looked at me. And when he saw my eyes rolled in the back of my head and like drool coming out of my mouth, he said, "This boy's fucked." And after that, he never spanked me again.
Wow, that's quite a story. I mean, some people would have to live lifetimes to have a story like that. It's really, really quite impressive.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say. I just think it's better to just move on, really. Fair play. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
leaving the interviewer speechless.
Well, normally, I mean, this is. I mean, the only person I've had that is like this capable of like making me speechless is Kazi, and he's not allowed to go this far. So really, I'm up against my wits. Have you ever had? Do you know what a danger wank is?
Yes.
Have you done the danger wank?
Similar, but not really.
Because if you look on speedrun.com, I'm the any % record holder for the danger wank.
Well, okay, because for me it was different. Because me, instead of it being like a danger wank, it was my dad watching TV in the living room and then me going to the kitchen. And the reason why I went to the kitchen was because one of my mom's cousins, she was in her 20s. I was maybe 16 at the time. She had sent us a Christmas card. And I mean, she was looking chill in the Christmas card. So I went downstairs in the kitchen, right? And I started jerking off under the table. And at any point, my dad could have like walked into the kitchen, seen his son jerking off to the Christmas card that his wife's cousin had sent, but he didn't. So I actually got away with it.
That's like That's like a Danger Wank any percent with like mods attached.
Exactly.
It's like a very, you know what, I might be the record holder for the normal category, but
Yep.
I bow down to your ability to compete in the different category as well. That is quite impressive.
Thank you.
It was a good wank. You enjoy it?
A little anxious, little anxiety ridden, but
That doesn't help.
yeah. I mean, it was okay though. It was what it was.
It's average wank, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from wanking anyway, swiftly. You're the best heck room in the world, and obviously, as you know, horses have absolutely massive wangs. I mean, they've got massive penises.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Spent a few years on 4chan, you know a lot about animals, that's all I know.
Nice. Wonderful. So obviously, I mean, I was thinking, obviously there's been a lot of changes to jungle with the clear speed and whatnot. Do you think Hecarim's clear speed could be faster if his penis wasn't so massive? It's probably slowing him down quite a bit.
So the only issue is right now it's November. And since Hecarim hasn't had it... No,
I just immediately know where you're going with this.
But I'm just like, listen, the thing is that his balls are so full right now, right? That all it takes is like a little jiggle to the side and it's like slapping against one side, slapping to the other, little bit of pre-cum leaking out, you know, all this shit's happening. And I mean, it's a little cancer, it is what it is, you know, there's maybe a second or two it takes longer to clear, but overall, it's actually like, with the new season coming up and the fact that we're approaching Destroy Dick December, I think it might actually help a lot.
Yeah, that you're gonna shave 5-10 seconds off the clear there easily.
But I'll tell you what the issue is, right? Because people know No Nut November, they know Destroy Dick December, but the real challenge is no pee January. Not peeing for the entire month of January. I actually got to day 8 2 years ago, but then I was hospitalized.
You ever done the thing where you pinch the end of your penis and you inflate it by peeing, like a balloon?
I'm gonna do that today. And if my girlfriend has to bring me to the ER because of it, it's your fault.
Well, you know, I don't know what ramifications that would have. You're going to be the first person to take me to court for making a pee balloon. It's going to be a landmark, hallmark litigation right there.
Exactly.
I've actually got a bit of beef with Hecarim. Hecarim's had issues with me for years.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you do as much ketamine as I've done.
Oh, you're a ketamine addict.
Not anymore, but, you know, back in the day,
Yep.
obviously... He wasn't getting an easy night's sleep. Let's just say that. Yeah.
I mean, being from the UK, I don't blame you, bro.
It's all there is to do there.
No,
there's nothing. There's fuck all else to do.
It's like you cry, be sad, or do ketamine.
Literally. And speaking of drugs, you actually had a talk on Twitch where you spoke about how a lot of streamers do either Adderall or cocaine.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's a big phenomenon. So I wanted to ask, did Kesha give you his drug dealer's number when you lost against him?
Yeah. So the thing about Kesha, right, and this is the first time I'm actually talking about this, leaking it, right, is that the reason why he actually won the tournament, or came in second place, whatever it might have been, was because I was only on Adderall and meth, but Kesha was on Adderall, meth, and black tar heroin. Oh. So he had the holy trifecta, and my dealer, right, had actually gotten kidnapped by the cartel the day before.
Oh my God.
So I couldn't get it in time.
Yeah, no, that's not good. And obviously dealers can only play Draven as well.
No, exactly.
So that's a problem as well.
Yeah, Draven, Karthus, what else can he play?
Literally nothing. He's just useless. He's a useless piece of shit, and not enough people talk about that.
No one's talking about it, actually.
That's the one thing that people aren't talking about. You know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. People aren't talking enough about how Dealers is a useless piece of shit.
At the end of the day, lots going on in the world, but if it doesn't
Obviously,
impact your full clear...
Yeah, Baus can't play Renekton either, so you couldn't even get him on the Crocodile.
No.
That's the real shit. The Crocodile from Ukraine.
Okay.
You'll be gone for days, mate. Wake up and it's Wednesday, and it was Tuesday 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
My next question is, I've watched you multiple times sort of make love to your stuffed animals.
Yep.
I think your wave control is not that great, but obviously you're a jungler, so that makes sense. Why is it you think your stuffed animals don't deserve to be dicked down properly?
So the issue with the stuffed animals, right, is that they don't get wet enough for me. Like, I can sit there.
Yeah, it's not a natural lubricant, yeah.
I'm doing like foreplay for hours and hours and hours, and it's like it amounts to nothing. So, you know, I'm just there and it's just dry. So then at one point, it's just, you say fuck it and you just want to rage fuck the shit out of them.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get wet, I'll make you wet, and then you just like put it in.
That is so... I just don't even know what to say to that, because it's like... Because what are the ethical guidelines on like sexual assault on an inanimate object? It just doesn't necessarily exist, does it? So I can't.
Let's just say it's a good thing it doesn't exist. My stuffed animals isn't where I stopped. My mattress, you know the little like no, listen.
Thank God that's where that was going.
Yeah, but you know the little like crevice right between like where you put the mattress on the bed frame?
Yeah.
I fucked it.
So you don't get chafed? Chafing?
So that's the reason why I only did it once, is because I got carpet burn.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Your dick has been through more than R. Kelly. Like, it's
It's
not healthy at all.
Yeah, it's been through the ringer.
My next joke is you have an obsession with Yordles. You're always talking about how you want to fuck Lulu
Yes.
and things like this.
Yes.
If you wanted to fuck animals, why don't you just go back and play NA solo queue?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's like I know what you mean.
I do know what you mean.
It's like you know what I mean.
Because, okay, so listen, I'll tell you. The problem with NA solo queue, right, is that it's kind of like you have 3 tiers, right? So you have long queues with moderate game quality, and it's like whatever. You have moderate queues with moderate game quality, which is like EU. And then you have Korea, which is like fast queues with horrible game quality. And the issue is that it's like NA is fun, right? Like when you're getting in the high elo lobbies, it's like chill. But then when you wait for half an hour to get in a game with like Yu Shin Bao and he's locking in fiddlesticks, and then he types in all chat like $50 to the enemy Renekton who's named like I don't know, like Xin Zhao Gao, and then you're just sitting there thinking like, oh well, I just wasted 20 minutes in queue, 15 minutes in game to get win traded from this bullshit.
Yeah.
It's mentally taxing.
You just start thinking better learn Chinese and download WeChat.
No, at this point, yeah, it's like that's what most NA players do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're not sitting there and like win trading games, then they're just hitting up e-girls, and if they're not doing either of those, then they're just like learning Chinese so that they can get on WeChat and
Yeah,
actually...
I heard Tamal is like level 50 on Duolingo.
Yeah, no, yeah. He's getting there.
Fuck's sake. Actually, there's quite a few people who edit your motivational speeches into like hardstyle edits.
Yep.
There's like an Attack on Titan one, there's stuff like that.
Yes.
It's always the same kind of music though. I know you have a particular type of music you listen to, but I know that your girlfriend is from Germany.
Yep.
And obviously you know that in Germany the national music is techno.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different. But I wanted to maybe see if we could improvise. I'm going to get you on the spot here.
Okay.
Do a motivational speech that would fit more to like techno music. So obviously, you know, you're in a club, people are sweating, their jaws are swinging like an LCS player at an EDM festival with their OnlyFans girlfriend.
Okay.
And, you know, the club is bouncing. He's like, uns. Das Lieblingsfahrer. Welcome to ein Techno club in the party banger. Like, it's very dark. The lights are blaring. Give a motivational speech into the camera.
Okay.
Uns.
Wait 1 second. Hold on. I'm like...
No, you're entering it, I know.
Yeah. It's because right now the creative energy is like flowing around. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's in your feet right now. You've got to get it up to the mouth.
Okay, wait. Okay. My parents told me to mow the lawn, but I'm not a Hurensohn.
Uns.
And now, as I'm walking down the street,
Das war sehr lustig.
I'm getting tired. I need to rest my feet. So I'm gonna open my computer with all my friends inside.
Ja, auf mein Handy.
And I'm gonna play video games and eat cream pies.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really good. We're going to do a little techno edit of that. We'll get one of these just SoundCloud editors that just re-upload people's music and put new fucking images on. There's a social currency to that. I think if you're someone out there that's a talentless hack, just re-upload people's music and like put a cool photo on it and some like L9 font.
So this is the thing, right? I have a lot of popular playlists, right? And the thing about the playlists and the music that I listen to is that a lot of it is actually people who will go on SoundCloud, rip music, and then re-upload it as if it's their own. And they're called re-uppers, right? And Yeah, there are like more of those than I can count because most of my playlists
They're called
are...
re-uppers?
Yep, re-uppers.
Oh, we just call them homosexuals where I'm from.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Understood then, I guess. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's like a lot of people actually do that when they just want to get a free 10K subs on YouTube, or they want to get some clout for their Discord server.
Yeah, and you just upload some girl from Twitter, like Hancock's girlfriend, you just put her on the image of the...
No, exactly, yeah. You just pop that on and then you're good.
Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Apparently you've been wiring all of your money through an account in Switzerland to avoid paying any tax. That's the most recent rumor I heard about you. We've actually contacted your accountant and we have the sort code and all of the transfers. Apparently there's a charge to a quicksand fetish website. There's also another charge for $1,500 to the Rizzler Academy. And there's a final charge that's been transferred from another account that we don't know what it is, but it's just entitled the final transfer.
Okay.
What would you like to... I mean, I don't mean to like come to your house and try and break this news here, but like, is there anything you'd like to comment on those rumors that you've been wiring this money?
Did they find out about my Incest subscription?
I'm sure if we look through the logs deep enough, then there's always things to be found. But...
Okay. Funny story about that actually. There's a guy who sometimes he'll use my business email to sign up for random shit. And one of the things
because of course there is, that's normal.
Because so one of the things he actually signed up to was this site that specializes in gay porn where they do incest roleplay, and it's called Gaycest. So every like week or
quite
something.
a good portmanteau there, makes sense.
It is, it actually is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so nowadays every week I'll just have a random little notification like dad fucks son, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like son based brothers turkey, and it's like, oh, okay, well,
I prefer to get fucked by my dad in more traditional ways, like him not telling me he loves me and appreciates me. I've always appreciated that way more.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
I hope he doesn't watch this. Fucking hell. I wondered. Here's a question for you, because you said that you wanted to set up a boxing event for League streamers with Destiny.
Yeah, so the story about that is that I was supposed to set up a boxing event between like Kick and Twitch streamers with a bunch of like League streamers.
Would it be Kick versus Twitch?
That was my goal. But the problem is that when you try setting up events like these, people just aren't interested. Because the only people that move to boxing are people who are washed up. People who their careers are already dead, and they're like, oh, you know what, maybe if I become a boxer, it'll work out. So then they just start training for boxing to try and maintain relevancy that way. But the thing about it is that if you're going to like a thing like TwitchCon, most of the people that go there are people that are either in the prime of their career, or they're people that are like content with what they already have. So they're not going to randomly do a boxing thing, right? And the problem with League streamers too is that they're all like shut-ins. They don't
in an ideal world though, what are some matchups that you'd like to see?
Oh, in an ideal world? Okay. Oh, this is good. So...
I mean, for me, Voyboy Hashinshin is one for the ages.
Yes. So you have Voyboy versus Hashinshin, but since Voyboy has weight advantage, Hashinshin's allowed brass knuckles.
Hashinshin's bigger though, no? Like taller and got more reach. I don't think you can do it based on weight.
Okay, so then what we do is like he's allowed brass knuckles, but both of his legs have to be tied together. So he has to like hop around.
This could work.
Yeah, so that would be one. Then we also have Tarzan versus Chase Shaco.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that'd be a crazy one. And then we have Hums versus
the prize is 10 no ego slags.
That's a good one, yeah.
What was the last one?
Hums versus a dictionary.
Someone needs to. You need to get Hums to do a fight against someone, and then like whoever he fights against does that. You know the 50 Cent video about Floyd Mayweather. It's like, if you can read 5 pages of a Harry Potter book, I will donate 5,000 to a charity of your choice. That'd be good. These are some good fights. I'm trying to think of some more good ones here. Who's like, you should get like Pink Ward versus another guy that's Pink Ward versus Sloppy Walrus.
Okay.
Heavyweights.
Yes.
Heavyweights.
That'd be good. The Bomba guy versus the clone guy.
Yeah. And so halfway through the fight, Pink Ward just he splits into 2.
Or what we do is we put Pinkboard against someone else, and then we just have Sloppy Walrus like dye his hair like black, and then they can be like 2 Shaco clones. So you just say Shaco used to hallucinate, and then it's just like they both come in at once.
Yeah, it's incredible. That's a good idea. It's one of the best ideas we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the event. I've saved the event. You were struggling to get it set up. I've just saved the entire thing. You also talked about how a lot in school you used to have incest debates with people because you watched you watched a lot of Destiny. So that must have been a nice full circle moment to be organising that with him.
Yeah.
Can you have what is the actual debate? Can you have an incest debate with me right now?
Perfect. Okay. So
do you see how he's giving a bit of space?
Yeah. Now you got to get that space because you're about to be hit with it.
Okay.
So do you think incest is morally wrong?
Morally wrong. Well, it depends how you define morals. Because morals is a social system.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, do you think the action of someone sleeping with a relative, just that, the action itself of that and that alone is something wrong?
You see, this is the point in which I'm going to deflect what you're saying, because if we look on a purely ontological level, morals is a system of which is defined by cultural diatribes and external systems to the actual problem itself. So, what is actually moral? Would be the question I would put to you. How do we define that? Because at a baseline level, what was moral 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago? Murder was moral, and things like this. So
yeah, and I think it should be again, honestly.
How would you use murder?
Against the people that didn't mean League. No, I'm being serious because listen, and I will always justify this. If people enter games, they deserve to die. Because no, listen, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say.
No, I'm with you. Let's follow this rabbit hole.
Because this is the thing, right? Like, let's say I'm talking to you. Yeah. I can interact with you as a person.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But if it's like you're just someone online, I'm not interacting with you as a person. You're just an online name.
Yeah.
So if I have a guy that's queuing up and every single day he's making me lose my game, I don't know anything about this guy. He brings nothing to my life other than misery. So if this guy from one day to the next ceases to exist, it changes my life in no way whatsoever, and it actually only adds to my life.
What about the butterfly effect, though? You never know. Like maybe he is doing a business marketing degree in his spare time, and he actually ends up getting a big position at like a big company, and he would have gone on to give you $1 million contract, but he's dead now.
I'm gonna be honest. If it means that I don't get into it, for me to lose $1 million, I'll take it.
Really just go. I mean, a lot of people will discredit you, but it really goes. There's something like that. It shows you how much it means to you.
Yeah, because this is the crazy thing about me, right? Is that like my League games mean a lot to me, but it's like it only means a lot to me in the sense that I'll queue up for like 15, 16 hours. But let's say I have a self-destructive habit and I'm saying that I'm like, no, I just got to keep playing an extra 5 hours. I'm already 20 hours in. It's like it doesn't mean enough to me that I would stop. So like my self-destructive habits mean more to me than League. And then it's like, that's kind of like the order it goes.
This reinforces the whole main character thing because you are the main character in the sense that you are your biggest enemy.
Yeah, literally.
You are both the protagonist and the antagonist of the Twitch stream.
Every person's antagonist is always themselves.
Not always.
Always.
Not always.
Always.
Why?
Well, name me one situation where it wouldn't be so.
Well.
Bad things in general, right? Where you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be like getting used to all these different crazy things happening. But if you just sit there and you open up your crush's Instagram, right? Start jacking off to that. Yeah. No harm, no foul.
You know what the hilarious thing about that is that I forgot to press record there. So now the cut into the footage is just going to be you in the middle of a tangent about jacking off to Instagram. Oh. Hello and welcome back to the video. I've been out for about 15 minutes trying to find a camera battery because I couldn't find one. As you guys know on the channel, I'm known for audio issues, known for video related issues. I'm just a guy at the end of the day, a guy with ADHD who hires multiple workers from India and Pakistan and places like that to do this. So there's not anyone physically here to help me, which is unfortunate. But we were just talking about how Dantes at one point liked a few of my editor's Instagram photos, his sister, and I can't find his sister because he doesn't trust me with the information. I don't know why.
You know, there's also a chance your editor's a liar. What if he doesn't have a sister and he's just saying that?
What if it's him in a wig?
It might just be, honestly.
Bit of HRT, bit of a wig.
Could, honestly, why not?
I would. I still would. You ever thought about that? When you find... That is the gay paradox. If your friend has a sister and you find them hot, you essentially want to fuck your friend.
I mean, listen. I'm just going to say what needs to be said. Sucking your own cock is straight. Because if masturbating isn't gay and you're touching your own cock, then what's the difference if you're touching with your mouth or with your hand? Think about it.
Well, I guess you could say that like gay is a spectrum.
So is autism.
True. Let me make sure I do that clap. I forgot to do that. You always do that to like sync up the audio.
Yeah.
Editor's going to get mad at me. So gay is a spectrum. Autism is a spectrum. LS is somehow on both of these. He's in the Philadelphia spectrum at this point.
Exactly.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So you do agree that being gay is a spectrum then?
That being gay is a spectrum, sure.
I think a blowjob is more gay than a hand job, for sure.
You could say that.
Well, it depends how enthusiastic you are, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of,
I mean, if you're I don't know, like, if you're just sleeping and your friend pops in your mouth, it's like it is what it is.
No, definitely not. God, I'm going to really regret telling this, but I have a story of a friend from my school I will not name the name of, but anyone that knows me in real life will massively enjoy this story. As a kid, I didn't go to school with, but like he was like, we had our friend group that went to this school and they went to this other school. But this other school was known as being like weird. It was like an all boys school, and you know what those guys are like.
Yeah.
So there's a story. This guy one time, basically, there's one guy had fallen asleep at the sleepover, and essentially all of them dared my friend to go, come on his face. And like, obviously you say that and you don't expect anyone that actually does it. He disappears to the bathroom for about 10 minutes and he comes back and sort of was at the point of no return as he sort of was walking, and he literally came on my friend's face.
Did your friend wake up?
I don't know. I don't know what the follow-on story is from that. It's all sort of shrouded in mystery, really. It's not good. Like, it's not good at all. I can't imagine. I mean, a lot of people have got skeletons in their closets, but that's just like, how do you come back from that? For both people, both sides. Who's actually worse for in that scenario? I mean, definitely the guy getting cummed on, for sure.
Yeah, because he fell asleep at a sleepover. If there's one thing you don't do is fall asleep at a sleepover.
That's rule 101. I mean, really, that is completely rule 101.
Yeah.
God, we've talked so much about shit that is so non-serious that I feel almost as if it's good to get into the serious topics. I mean, we've spoken about a few things off camera, but you're someone that is so polarizing by the pure nature of what you do is just so hyperbolized at all times.
Yep.
You write in a very specific way on your tweets. You do the whole Andrew Tate, space it out with the paragraphs and whatnot, with these like long diatribes and metaphors and whatnot. And then obviously there's a degree of self-motivation, conventional wisdom that goes into everything you do. It's clear to see that you mix and match when it needs to be serious and when it doesn't. But how much... Clearly what you do on stream is a hyperbolized version of the Dantes. How much is it extended? How much are you like this in your regular life?
So I like to think of it as it's almost like I have different facets to my personality, right? So there's a me that I am when I'm in like any kind of group setting. So anyone that's ever known me in real life, anyone that's ever went to school with me, will tell you that the way that I am on stream is the same way that I was in school. Like sitting there saying crazy things, being known for crazy things, talking about the things that no one's talking about, right? These are all the things that made me stand out in school. And the whole kind of like doing the tweets, all of that kind of stuff, is just like more so the me that I am when I'm alone, right? Like the me that I am when I'm just kind of like sitting there.
Introspective.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like sitting there thinking to myself, why am I the way I am? How do I function? Why am I this way? And it's just two different facets of my personality that are still me and are still like the way that I act, but are two completely different parts.
Was it difficult for you coming up? Because I can imagine clearly from what you're saying, you're a kid in school that got attention for being the way you are, but then obviously on stream, was it difficult coming up? Because at the beginning, you probably weren't getting a lot of attention, you being this kind of crazy person. Was it difficult to stay true to yourself at some point and think, do I need to do things differently?
Okay, so this is actually like a little bit of a long story, right? So the story is that I was maybe 5 to 10 viewers for a very, very, very long, or for a few months. And then it was one day that a lot of you might know about, some of you might not, which is when I had gotten a game with an offline TV member. And I had made this like comment that I shouldn't have made. And I had later apologized for multiple times, where I had sat there and linked my stream and then asked her like, hey, would you have sex with me, right?
Yeah.
So after I did that, I was just like sitting there doing my own thing, kind of like, just like carrying on with my stream as normal.
Yeah.
And it was after my stream that I noticed that she had actually clipped it. And I didn't know why she clipped it. I thought maybe she found it funny or whatever it might be, right? Um, so then the next day I'd gone in her stream and I had typed something like, "Hey Yvonne, like I asked you a question on stream yesterday and you never responded," like something like that, because I was like, oh, maybe she found it funny, maybe she'll like talk about it, maybe it'll give me like a bit of attention, because I didn't see anything with it at the time.
Could you see why people might find that hard to believe in terms of like they might just think that you're further trolling her?
Yeah, no, I mean, I see why they would think, but I mean, like, come from the perspective of I'm a guy who at the time was like 17, right? 17, about to turn 18,
Yeah, sure.
and never had gotten in any kind of trouble whatsoever with anyone. Everyone that knew me in real life kind of knew me as like a chill guy, like I always kind of kept to myself. So that's why, like, I was just like this guy who was never really exposed to the whole online scene, because I was just like, even though I was online most of the time.
Not exposed to consequence, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how it's the whole, like, it's the whole thing where you go on Twitter and there are people getting canceled for things that in the real world 95% of the people do or talk about,
Yeah, sure.
And the thing is, I just wasn't really that invested in the online scene to the point where I had known, like, okay, what's okay, what isn't okay. So things that, let's say, you would go at work and you'll hear your like 40-year-old coworker talking about, right?
Sure.
Are things that people on Twitter are going to hear Andrew Tate talking about, and then they'll be like, oh, and he's
I guess my
canceled.
question would then be, because in terms of like what is externally perceived as like when you interact with your mother, it seems like she has a very like close relationship with you. You seem like you were raised very well.
Yep.
How, at what point, because you're talking there about like seeing what like 40-year-old co-workers or whatever, obviously like it's interesting to like examine that interaction just on a pure basis of, obviously you're young, so you probably thought it was acceptable, but there is a disconnect there between like being quite well brought quite well, and I think people who have strong relationships with their mothers, generally speaking, like know not to say things like this. So I wanted to examine in like a non-judgmental way where you think you made that mistake and where it came from.
Yeah. So, truth be told, it's because when I was around 16, that was also the time that I started getting into like black pill and like incel forums and all that kind of stuff, right? Because at the time I just found it funny, like the whole like black pill community, the whole like incel community, all that stuff. I found it like hilarious.
Yeah.
So I started like just reading about it more and more, and then I started like actually going on their like forums, all the Reddits about it.
It's a pretty dangerous gateway.
Yeah, because it's at first for me it was because I just found it so insane that I was like, this is crazy. But then it's like you sit there and you read posts about it every day and every day and every day and every day.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where like, maybe it isn't that crazy, right? So then the problem is that I got into that and I was like, I really got into this whole like, I guess, kind of dark-ish, edgy-ish humor, right? And it just like became further compounded, all that kind of stuff. So that's the reason why, I got in a champ select. I saw a girl's name and I was like, yeah, I've been lifting for like a year or two. I feel like I look decent, whatever it might be. And then just there, like saying, oh, like a comment I shouldn't make.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well because you're someone that like always, you've spoken about in the past about how you grew up quite like overweight and you sort of developed more of a sense of self-worth from gym. But would it be fair to say that like when you'd actually like achieved this physical body that you still maybe had the ramifications of someone that was growing up like relatively undesirable?
Yeah, so like that's one of the things that even in my relationship, right, it's like the big thing for me is insecurity, where even though nowadays I might be a much better version of myself, like physically, from like I guess like a standpoint of what can be observed, right? Like I'm a lot better than I was years ago, but I still feel the way that I used to,
Okay.
And then it's almost like no matter how much progress you make, all you can think is there's more progress to be made,
Yeah, for sure. I think the interesting thing about that, and I want to tap into it a little bit more because I feel there's more that can potentially be said on it, is I think that's something that a lot of people don't consider it in the community, is it's not in a way of absolving or justifying what has gone on. It's more of a like from an empathetic standpoint, trying to, in the true meaning of empathy, to put yourself in one's shoes. Like I think the gateway into a lot of that kind of conventional wisdom, black pill, incel community, like anti-SJW stuff is like very easy because I mean I'll say it myself, like I'm someone that went through a similar gateway when I was about 16, 17, 18 and it led to like very like bad things happening to me in my life and the way I like acted and treated other people, because realistically what happens is you end up watching like one of these like savage feminists gets wrecked compilations
Yeah.
when you're like 15, and it's like, wow, these fucking crazy blue head bitches, they're so like crazy. And then you start to believe in this like grander narrative about like, wow, like fucking I'm so underappreciated for the
Yeah.
person I am, and like society is moving against me, and you just
And I think it's not just that. I think it's also the fact that a lot of people have to understand that the incel communities weren't like grounded in misogyny, right? So it wasn't like people that were saying they're talking about their like hatred for women or things like that, right? It was
I
more
think
so.
the important clarification to make there, to make sure that maybe you disagree with me, but I want to ground this, and it's not that it's rooted in misogyny, at least from you can't tell that when you're looking at it, when you're a part of it. Overarchingly, the umbrella is very misogynistic, I feel like.
Yeah, but that's just how like some people end up viewing it, and it's like that some people just ends up becoming most people, but not everyone, right? Because like, so I feel like most of the people that become a part of the community or that become like a part of like incel forums or things like that, it's not necessarily because they hate women. It's just more so a thing because they feel bad for people that were like mistreated, right? And then when you read their individual stories, right, when you see all these different like things about people talking about like how they went through this bad experience, that bad experience, this bad experience, that bad experience, right? Then over time you start to be like, oh well, okay, I guess that's the reason why they are the way they are today, you know?
Yeah, I think the important distinction to make there is like these people, they all obviously have like these shared bad experiences, but the problem and why it is essentially rooted in misogyny is that they link this back to the inherent, and this is like the nuance here to attach to it is the reason they link it back to the experience of not having a woman is because that is a metric of success by society.
Yeah.
That they are taught if
Yeah.
they are lonely in these ways.
Yeah, so
There is an existential need for them to do this. That's what I mean by the overarching umbrella. It's
Yeah.
more that like that is the way in which they manifest
yeah,
their desire.
I mean, I'll agree with that because the thing about me is that nowadays the way I view it is that men and women are equal in that regard, right? Like you'll have as many like men who are in a position where they have a lot of potential partners that are gonna like mistreat the ones that they find like undesirable or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just like you're gonna have women who will have a bunch of potential partners, and then the ones who they don't want, then they'll also be like mistreated in some cases too, right? So it's not really a thing that's like exclusive to women. It's not exclusive to a thing where it's like, oh, if you're a guy, you're the only one that can experience bad things in dating scene. It's kind of like each guy and girl, they have their own issues within the scene, and when you're going after people that have like a lot of options, right, you're just bound to get hurt.
I'm not sure if I agree with that last part. If you go after people that have a lot of options, you're going to get hurt. I think that's like a relatively.
In most cases,
Would it
like,
be fair? Would it be fair to say that that's potentially something that's influenced by your bad experiences as well, or is it something that you observe as a general phenomenon?
I mean, observe from my experience, like in general, right, where it's like
Yeah.
I'll see there'll be like guys that will have a lot of options, and then the ones that they don't really take seriously will just be like whatever, you know. Same thing with girls, right, where a girl will have a bunch of options, and the guys, you know, that they don't take seriously, just kind of like whatever.
Sure. I want to make sure we circle back to what is important, because I think we're just having a fucking Tinder conversation at this point. But I think the thing that's interesting about what we initially spoke about is this gateway into potentially more lurid and toxic behaviors. Like you're talking about how you making that comment is influenced by potentially being part of some of this like black pill thought. How have you like broken out of that? Because I know for me personally, it ended up like I ended up being in a position where, but it influences all aspects of your life, because one minute you're watching these funny videos, and then suddenly you're watching like Milo Yiannopoulos and like all of this like Ben Shapiro stuff, and then it just influences your top-down politics and everything, and you just end up like I ended up in a position whereby a lot of my in real life friends were like, "Wow, you've changed. You're like a massive dick," and then you end up hanging out with people that share a similar opinion, and these people are like very. I mean, you hate yourself to an extent. Would it be fair? Like, I don't know how your relationship was yourself when you had this.
Yeah, I mean,
when you had these opinions and stuff, was it a position? Because for me, it comes from a place of self-loathing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like even to a certain extent nowadays, right? Like, I do certain things, act in certain ways, and it's like there's a part of me that does it, and then a part of me that says you shouldn't be doing this, you know. So like self-hatred, stuff like that, is something that I've felt for like years. But when it comes to this specifically, the way that I broke out of the whole like black pill thing is that it got to a point where I just realized that the further you go into it, the more inescapable it kind of becomes, right?
It's like quicksand.
Yeah, because the issue is that like let's say you do end up one day finding a partner, right? And you think that you have to act in this way, this way, this way, this way. You can't act like this. You can't be weak. You can't do any of these things, right? Then the problem is that you're just trying to get them to fall in love with a version of you that isn't actually you. So then either they're going to be hurt one day when the actual you comes out, or you're just going to be hurt because you can never be you. So when I came to that realization, I just got to a point where I was like, I'd rather be rejected by 100 people for who I actually am, but then find the one for me, than to act in a way where it's never actually me. And I'm just unhappy, even though I can hold on to like a bunch of different relationships.
That's interesting. And at what point does it, because for me, what is characteristic there potentially is that you're doing it for other people to an extent. Do you find it difficult to self-improve for a matter of just yourself? Because obviously you've talked about there's a degree of insecurity there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird for me because the weird thing for me is that the way I've always kind of viewed myself is I don't view myself as just like DANTES, like I don't view myself as like, oh yeah, I'm DANTES. I view myself as like there's a little kid who I was when I just started out, right? Like the little fat kid, the little bronze kid, first started out streaming like 0 viewers on Twitch, all that kind of stuff. And then there's that kid. And then there's like what I built myself up to. And I feel like it's almost like what I built myself up to is almost like the armor or like the shell of the little kid that once was.
Yeah, there's an inner child there.
Yeah.
That's still the same.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason why, like, sometimes I can come across as like heartless for some people or things like that. And it's not necessarily that I'm heartless. It's just that there's the shield in me that wants to protect the, I guess, like younger child,
That's interesting. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I constantly feel as if the phrase I always use is indebted to a previous day.
Yeah.
I always feel like that as if, because, there are things that happen to you when you're a kid and it's just like, it really does shape you in a very developmental way. So I guess in which ways, because you're talking about the negative ways in which that manifests, what is it about Dantes as a child that benefits you now? Because I can imagine that he's a kid that has a lot of humor.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just like the me that I am on stream for the most part. Yeah. Like the me that I am where I'm able to just like make funny jokes, act in certain ways that most people would say, oh, you shouldn't be acting like that, Like the me that's able to really feel this like unconditional emotion. Like whatever that emotion might be, whether it might be caring for something, whether it might be obsessed with the ideal of something, like it's just that kind of thing where it's almost like the good parts,
Yeah.
Like, so that's the weird thing is that it's almost like the younger me is all the good parts of me, even though the physically was like the bad parts of me.
Yeah.
And then as like I've grown up and I've had this like shield exterior or whatever, it's almost like that's the good parts of me physically, but then the bad parts of me as a person.
Of course. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting duality there that you've kind of talked about because it's on a very subconscious level.
Oh, yeah. So that's why it's like a lot of people, they call me a schizo or something like that. And, being a schizo is not really for stream content.
No, it's less that you're schizo. It's more that you're acutely aware of like So there's an analogy that there's a really good documentary about films that a guy called Slavoj Žižek made, and he's talking about like Freud's psychosomatic or like subconscious model, and he talks about the film what's the film with a guy that kills his mother in a motel? Psycho, I want to say it is. Maybe it's wrong. Someone will come collect me. But he talks about there's 3 floors in the house that represent each level of the subconscious. And it's almost as if, to me, I get the idea that you're more aware of what lies beneath than most people would be. Which means that you come across as a bit more schizo, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, well, the reason why is just because back in the day, I would just... Because, okay, so for me, money's never really been like an object, right? Like growing up, my parents were middle class. We'd have our yearly vacations.
Yeah.
Never really had any issues. So that's why when I got older, right? Up until I was 17, I never had to have a job because the money that I'd get for my birthday would be enough. And I would never like go out and buy anything. I would just like sit at home playing video games all day. And then when I was 17, my parents wanted me to get to a job, but that's when COVID started. So then I just started streaming because I found it fun. And then by the time COVID ended and I could get a job, streaming was already sustainable by that point. So I never really had to be worried about finances, first of all. And I always also had a lot of time at home to myself. Yeah. So what I would do is every day would just be like stream, and then just think, right? Because as I got bigger, there were more people to talk to, and there were more like individuals to interact with and all that stuff. But when I was like a smaller streamer, there was no one to really talk to. So I would sit there, I'd have my few friends I'd DM, but if I wasn't DMing them, then I would just be sitting there laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking. And I would just do introspection for like hours and hours and hours, just asking myself questions, asking myself, who am I? And eventually it got to a point where it's like, now I can just see like one thing that I might do or one action that I might make. And I can almost instantly connect that back with like, okay, the reason why I act this way is because of this. And I got really good to that in that extent, in that regard.
That's interesting. I wanted to ask then, because presumably you lived a relatively sheltered life, playing video games up until the point in which you would have had that first step out into the world, but then you didn't because of circumstances. Do you feel as if your development has been robbed as an adult in some ways? Because a lot of people because I'll say myself, like I was never pushed in that way, and it meant that when I went to university, I had like a real struggle because it was the first time like washing clothes, like first time like doing a load of different shit. Like, in what ways do you feel like you're a little bit further behind, maybe?
Well, I think when it comes to like taking care of myself, especially, that's one of the reasons why when I like travel abroad or things like that, usually I have like a hard time. Because I'll do the basics, you know, like I'll sit there, I'll shower, I'll do the things, but it's like, for example, I've been in Korea for what, a month now, and I came here with like enough clothes for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I still haven't washed them. I'm just like there, like cycling through it over and over again.
Yeah, that's gross.
You know, no, it's just like CBA doing laundry.
How often do you change your sheets on your bed?
Change my sheets at home?
Just here or at home?
Well, here the maids do it every day. Yeah, so that's chill. But it's like at home.
We know your ass would have not changed it for the whole month.
No, literally, fuck that shit. But it's like at home, for example, my mom changes it, or she makes me change it like once a week. So I have like some good habits that my mom's instilled in me. But yeah, I mean, it's even funny because like my girlfriend will bring up like some like things I might do or like complaints that she might have about me. And these are things like my parents have been telling me for years as well, you know, so.
Yeah, and it's funny because your parents always angle it from the way of like, when you get a girlfriend, she's going to, and that shit happens.
Exactly. Then you get the girlfriend, it's like, oh, fuck. Well,
for sure.
Maybe they were right.
I guess my question would be, when you talk about this innate, it's ironic, right? Because you're talking about this need for external validation almost, because you have this innate insecurity, but then you also do a lot of this introspection. It feels like to me as if you've explored all the four corners of your own box.
Yeah.
You're very acutely aware of yourself within your own domain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it difficult to go outside of that box into the wider world, or like potentially explore yourself in a new light?
Well, you mean
I'm not saying that you don't, but for me, based on what you're saying, I would assume that there was maybe a difficulty in pushing yourself outside of your box.
Do you mean like interacting with others?
Outside of your comfort zone, maybe. Well, I don't know, like maybe like new experiences, like people in general.
I mean, new experiences and stuff like that's like, it's not something that's like welcome necessarily, but I don't mind doing it, you know?
Okay.
Like, even things like this, right? Like a podcast or stuff like that, that normally I've never really done, you know? It's like, I'm not opposed to the idea of it.
For sure.
Because I just view it all as like, oh, it's an interesting experience, you know, it's something like that.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really find any difficulty in it because it's kind of like I view life almost as like a video game, and every new experience is just like a new level that you're unlocking, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. My question would be, and I apologize if this comes over as assuming, but I think you'll appreciate the question and the ability to answer it, is do you think that because you have this need to externally prove yourself, or like you need someone else to like resurrect, or like not resurrect, but like fix, I mean the meme is like, I need someone to fix me, right?
Yeah.
In what ways does that present difficulties in potentially like relationships that you have with girls a lot of the time, like past and previous? Because I can imagine, based on what you're saying, that presents an issue. Okay. In that if you're not sure of yourself.
So the biggest issue that I would have, the biggest one, is that I was just convinced that no one actually wanted me for me, right? And that they just liked the idea of me.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's like the biggest thing, because it's almost like when you have this idea of like the younger you, and then like the you that you built up, then it's almost like how many people just want the you that you built up.
And I guess if you build up all this armor as well, you're scared of the person that can look past that armor. Yeah,
so that's why like with my girlfriend, it was like, it's funny because I told her, you know, the reason why we actually ended up dating, okay, There were a few reasons, but I could tell from like one of the first times we were interacting because it was just the way she would look at me. Where she would look at me and I would get the feeling of like I'm enough. Just by the way that she would look at me. And coming from a guy who always goes to the gym, right, to push his body, streams to push his like career, right, plays rank to like push his rank, having that feeling is something that was just so alien to me. And even though there were other girls in the past or stuff like that who I had been with and all these things, it was just like I had never gotten that feeling to the same degree or even anywhere close of like I am enough in that sense. It was just always like, oh, whatever. But with her, the second I felt that, I was like, oh shit.
That's good. I'm,
Mm.
I'm happy that you have that. Innately very jealous, but happy that you have that as well.
Thank you.
That is good because that's interesting to me that there is a positive to that side. But in what way do you think that going forward, this might be a hard question to ask, and who am I to ask it? But do you see a pathway to fix this innate sense of self-doubt within yourself? How do you heal that inner child? Have you put much thought into that? Because it strikes me from what you're saying is you're sort of just content with leaving that to be and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that I'll probably like learn over the course of the next like few years.
Yeah.
But for now, it really is just a thing where
you're just content learning, see how it goes.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't feel like it should manifest any like really big issues because most of the issues I have for me especially are things where like in the beginning of a relationship I might have like a bunch of problems, but then as time goes on it's like and trust builds.
Yeah.
Then I start becoming a lot better because it really is just like the whole trust thing, and once I feel like I have that, then it's a lot better.
I think the thing that interests me about you is that you're someone that, from speaking to you and from hearing you speak about things, there is a deep insecurity within you, but and a fear. I think anyone that has that level of like mistrust with themselves from that inner child that was this fat kid growing up, like I've been fat for years and like stuff like that. There is this sort of like you would expect for you to be someone that is not willing to put it all on the line. You're so candidly honest and you wear your heart on your sleeve in a way that is, you're basically inviting people to look, I am very passionate, make fun of me. In the way of if I fail, make fun of me. If I succeed, cheer with me. That comes from a place of bravery, it feels like to me, which is in direct contrast to maybe the insecurity that was within you. Where does that bravery come from? Where do you find it?
It's so that's the thing that like my parents talk about as well, right? Hold on. I'll just get water and then I'll explain.
Cool.
I've released a lot of YouTube videos as well, right? I've made a lot of tweets about myself as a person, struggles I might go through, all these things. And a lot of people kind of like misjudge it because they view it as like bravery, right? As like, oh, you're really putting yourself out there. But that's not necessarily what it is. It's more so of a thing where I understand that there are people watching my story, right? And that there are people that are supporting me for me. And I just want to show them who it really is that they're supporting, right? Like, who am I really? And if I normally, right, from what I've learned, is that the more open you are with your community, the more open you are with like the people who support you, the more they will support you. Because you're not going to have a guy that's going to sit there and be like, oh, you're going through something? Well, I'll just stop supporting you then. But it's like you could have somebody who's going through the same thing that you're going through and will say, you know what, I never really liked you, but after hearing you talk about that, you're kind of like one of my favorite streamers now. So it wasn't really ever bravery for me that made me go out and like talk about myself, because I realized that the more that I did and the more that people got to know me, the stronger their support for me became. Because at the end of the day, I'm a guy just like anyone else, right? Like I have flaws, I make mistakes. And the thing is being open about those flaws, those mistakes, right? The way that I might like be acting that isn't necessarily good, right? The way that I might view myself that isn't necessarily good.
Yeah.
It just gives someone that they can relate to and someone that they can support because they can have that relation.
That's interesting. I guess more so, my question as well was tied to the fact of, you might not view it as bravery, but for me it's like, because of the way in which you present your heart so openly to the public, despite what you're saying about the armors being put up, means that you can end up in scenarios whereby, I mean, good example is, for example, the whole scandal you had with like Elo Santa commenting on your relationship drama that you had.
Yeah.
That is something where openly you had someone that was kind of directing or orchestrating a crowd that is already existing. I think it's not right to put full credit on him. He's like leading people that wanted to be led in terms of like laughing at you.
Yeah, but the problem is just like the way that he went about it, because
No, of course. I'm not
yeah.
justifying that. I'm also saying that it's a feeling that already existed. You had people that came in and were making fun of you. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things, I mean, I'll say this candidly on camera. We had an issue ages ago because I was one of the people I was like making fun of you in the chat for it. And we recently like talked about it and worked through it. So like, obviously that was something that existed there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's something that I apologized to you for, because I felt like there was maybe a disconnect between the person and the event of what had actually happened.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, when you're someone that is so polarizing and authentic to what you are, I feel like there's almost a desire to like take that down for people. So you're inherently acting at a risk anytime you put your heart out there, anytime you put your relationship public, or your struggles, or like all of these goals. Where does that come from? Because you've been burnt before, but you'll still put your hand on the stove.
Yeah, so it's just a game of probability, right? Like at the end of the day, like I talk about my goals, and sometimes I reach them, sometimes I don't, and sometimes it's like this trip in Korea where, awful. Like I came here saying I'll get rank 1, didn't even break Grandmaster, didn't break 300 LP, so it's there's risks to it for sure, and then you feel those risks, right? Like every day I'll have people who will come to my stream who will shit talk, right? And by being open in the past about like my relationships, and getting cheated on and all that stuff, it's like, again, it opens it up where even nowadays, I'll have people who come to my stream and be like, oh, this one's just gonna cheat on you as well, So you are right in the sense that it does leave you, I guess, open to attack, and that it makes it so that the people that do attack you, they aren't just attacking like the character, right? They aren't just attacking, oh, the schizo guy is a freak out. It's like they're actually attacking Dantes, But
you're giving them battleships to plot out
exactly.
in the game.
But it's just at a point where I just view it as, since I always have no bad intention, and I'm just trying to kind of put myself out there and give, I guess, especially like the younger viewers I might have, or even like some older viewers who might take to me for inspiration, just someone that they can relate better to. I just never really viewed it as a bad thing and just always kept doing it. Because it's also like, for me, Twitter, especially, the reason why I got big on Twitter was because I always viewed it as like a scrapbook, right? Where I could just go back in time, scroll back 6 months and say, that's where I was mentally 6 months ago. So I just always viewed it as like, kind of like a journal. To like log everything happening to me so that in the future, if I ever want to look back, I can. So that's another reason why I was always very open about it.
That's an interesting way of almost like treating your own life as like a exercise in like orienteering or like map work.
Yeah.
I guess my question would then be, we've obviously talked about how there's been like marked change within you as a person.
Yeah.
And I think some people will criticize that, oh, how much is it genuine change if you're doing it for other people? But you're saying that you find difficulty within yourself of marking that change. And one of the biggest changes you had was obviously like physically. That's something that you can tangibly see. But I think mental change within oneself can be difficult as well. Because it's hard to like mark.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is like mentally growing as a streamer as well is something that you actively have to do.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because I could be the same person from the time that I'm 19 until the time that I'm 29, and I'll just have a bunch of people that will dick ride me no matter what, and will always like, I guess like make excuses for me if I ever fuck up or things like that, just because they have something to gain from it, right? So the issue is, as a streamer, you always have to be very, very cautious, because if you're never growing, right, and people are too afraid to call you out for it, then you're just never going to face any actual feedback, and you're never actually going to grow because of it, right? And I guess like something helping me a lot with that is like right now being in the relationship I'm in and having like some issues that I'm having, right, with how I'll express myself or how I'll like react to certain situations, and then knowing that there is like a person there who just wants me, right? Like just wants me as like a person, and wants me to get better, wants me to grow and all that stuff. It helps me improve because it's almost like, they're not doing it because they're getting a raid. They're doing it because they just want to have someone that's better to be with.
Sure, that makes sense. Do you think then, because obviously we've talked about how within yourself you've had to make these changes, but you're still someone that like you'll go out of you're saying very controversial things, and you obviously have a massive platform, and I think there's a general discussion that has about like platform responsibility, and you're someone that like, because of your audience being so young,
So
potentially if you make a joke that is like about, oh, like I want to have sex with Yordles or whatever, do you feel in a sense of, do you feel like you do enough to guard people from not realizing it's a joke, but like how to like, because the way that we have jokes, like we'll have a joke in this interview that will be like, you're very clearly towing the line, and then like you be like, yeah, but like you tow yourself back.
yeah.
Do you feel like you actively teach your audience how to toe the line?
Well, okay, so when it comes to, I think two things. I think first thing is that the only responsibility that I have is to make people laugh. That's it. The only responsibility that any content creator has is to entertain the people that follow them. And that's the reason why I say the crazy shit I do, I make the jokes I make, and I go as insane as I do, because I realize that is my responsibility.
Okay.
I'm not here to teach ethics, to teach morals, or any of these things. Now, while I say that, I do also have another part of me where I say, but I also want to make sure that I'm not doing anything actually bad, right?
Okay.
So, for example, there was this one time I remember where I woke up one morning and I thought I looked really lean, right? And I was gonna like take a picture of it and then be like, oh shit, like looking insanely like skinny day or something, right? When I was like sucking in my like stomach, and you could see like rib cage and all that stuff. But then I thought to myself, why am a young guy saying that? It almost makes you want to be like, oh, what if I saw myself and looked like that? So I try not to teach bad habits. Like that's a big thing that I do. And that's why like you can scroll by, right? Like I won't tweet about, just started myself for 20 hours feeling great, like all that kind of shit.
That would
because,
be quite strange, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like I try to entertain without instilling bad habits. And if I'll make a joke, right, that some people might not like,
yeah,
well, so be it. If it makes tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people laugh.
I don't massively disagree with this, on the sense of I think there's a utility for comedians within society to shine lights to things and push boundaries in that way. But more so what I mean is I think that you yourself would potentially agree that you should, to some extent, with the person you were in the past, with the things that you went up to, do you not feel in a certain sense that you should be putting yourself on the cross as an example for like, hey, this is what I went through and I broke out of it with the Blackpool stuff. This is how I developed, because there are probably kids out there that are going through a similar journey to you. And I think you do a good job of like explaining and being very blankly honest about yourself. But I think you do have a responsibility in the sense of you are like an example for them potentially in their own personal development and growth.
Yeah, I mean, I view myself as that too, because,
Yeah.
I have like a bunch of people who say, hey, like I'm younger and you inspire me and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, now that you bring it up, yeah, probably within the next few days, I might make a tweet, like a big thing about like black pill thing or something like that. Just never really came to mind because I was never like,
Yeah.
But I mean, I've tweeted about a lot of things like that in the past, like a lot of like struggles, things like that, a lot of things that people can relate to, right? Like thoughts that I might have, because I was like, there is probably someone out there that can probably relate to it.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I guess helping my community, or helping some people in my community,
Yeah.
who might relate to a situation, be able to get through a situation, is something that I've done, And that's one of the reasons too why I released that whole like I got cheated on video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Was like so that people, even like months later, I saw people who like come to my stream and say, hey, just watch that video, and it's helped me a lot. Because these are things that do actually help people. And like there's a nice balance between helping people and then entertaining people.
Yeah.
And once you find that right balance, it's good, because the problem is that you can't swing all the way on one side, right? Like if you're just solely an entertainer, then there's almost no substance. And then if you're only solely this guy who's sitting there and who's like, okay, guys, like I need to motivate you.
Yeah,
right?
it's just like, oh, brother, give it a rest,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's why you need to find this perfect balance. And once you find that balance, you just need to ride with it. And I think I found like a good mix of that. And I just try my best to always like
Cool. I think I think people watching this are potentially fans of you might feel as if I'm pushing too hard to get you to kind of take accountability for the person you are. But I think it's important because I think one of the biggest struggles that we've spoken about is that you have an issue in the sense of you've made mistakes in the past that now are actively gatekeeping you in some ways. I mean, it's a very publicized thing that you have a difficulty in getting, you've had difficulties getting towards the partner thing.
Yep.
We've spoken about potentially like opportunities that might have been lost because of things.
Yep.
How do you feel in reaction to that? Because I feel like obviously there's a degree of you that like is annoyed by these things because you've obviously feel an innate change within yourself, but like there has to be a part of you that also understands it to an extent.
No, I'm gonna be honest. Look, I'll just be completely real. The problem with this scene, and it's a problem that the scene has always had, is that it isn't about who you are, it's about how big you are. And the issue is that people will only be willing to look past your past once you get to a certain threshold. And it's only once you go past that certain threshold that then they'll say, you know what, maybe you did change, right? Not because you might have actually changed, and not because they think you made a change, but just because for them it's better, because now you have more viewers. Now you have more to gain from.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you put it as like, I would more mark it as like, they would be willing to work with you again if the public opinion from a PR perspective means that it's okay for them to do it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which I guess can be marked up by numbers, but it could also be marked up by like,
yeah, but
they took a break away, they're now
yeah,
back.
but the other thing too is like public opinion is a lot of the times dictated by streamer opinion as well. You know,
that's true.
If
I hadn't considered that.
The 10 biggest just chatting streamers said, you know what, we love Dantes actually, right? And let's say like Offline TV is the one that really dislikes me. If all of them came out tomorrow and said, you know what, guys, give him a second chance, then their viewers would just be like, oh, okay. Because viewers will mimic the sentiment of their streamer the vast majority of the time.
That's true.
And it's only like when you get too big, right? Like, you don't think if XQC was 500 viewers that Pokemon would be ripping into that guy every stream? But because he has like tens of thousands, she has to just sit there and kind of like sit and be like, oh, you know what? XQC shit talking me again? Okay, you know what? I'll let it slide. You know, because you just get to a point where it's almost like you're untouchable. Same thing with Palawan and Riot.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that in the sense of like, I think at a certain level, when the numbers get to that level, it becomes more of a Game of Thrones. There is a bit more political intrigue in that sense.
Like, becoming the biggest streamer, especially when it comes to just chatting. Gaming streamers, like League streamers, we don't have to deal with this as much. I have to deal with it a lot more than other streamers just because I have a much more normie audience than most League streamers.
Double check that we're still...
Yeah,
we're still recording. Cool.
Yeah, but I will say that, like, yes, 100%, it's all like social games. Always. Like, it's social games, just viewer acquisition, all that kind of stuff when it comes to like any scene that isn't related to gaming. And that's why it's like, you sit there and you think like, oh yeah, I'm just going to play video games and I'll have fun. But then you realize that's like, you have certain like protected streamers that you can't go after, because if you go after them, then 5 other streamers will come to defend them. You can't talk bad about this guy because he's well liked, and then his viewers.
Is it confusing for you then? Because obviously you're talking about Offline TV being the main people that dislike you.
Yeah.
And obviously part of that is because of what you did and the comments you made to one of them. Is it difficult then to be annoyed? Because obviously you're annoyed. I've changed. They're gating me, but then also, she has a right in a way to be annoyed at you. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the sense of the baseline action. I feel like whenever you do something bad, you can't say they owe you an apology. Like, I feel like when you...
So this is like the problem, right?
Or they owe you the right to listen to your apology.
No, but that's not the issue I have.
Okay.
The issue I have isn't that they owe me an apology and that they owe me a collab. That's not what it is. It's just that I shouldn't be getting actively targeted, right? And sniped out of things because of something that happened years ago that I've changed from.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, it's not like I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? If
so you understand that, like
listen,
if you were in something that was directly involving them, you would understand. But it's more so that they're actively
exactly Like it's like I'm sitting here saying like, oh man, like I don't know, Pokemon didn't send me her cookies. You know, like that's not what I'm getting mad at. It's just more so a thing where it's like, if I DM a big
I don't think your
streamer,
accountant would have approved that anyway.
exactly. But yeah, no, it's just like if I DM like a big streamer and then like my intentions become known that I plan on making a collab with this streamer,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden that streamer gets 5 to 10 DMs from them and they're like, hey, don't work with him. It's like, that's the thing where it's like, at this point, it isn't, oh, you know, like you did something
And
years ago.
you
we don't
attribute
like
that purely to malice more than, oh, be careful around him.
Yes, exactly.
He's a firebrand.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It's just like, I don't know. It's just a thing where, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and like cry about it. If someone's gonna bring it up, I'll talk about it, right? But at the end of the day, you know, I managed to grow despite all the circumstances. I managed to get to the point that I'm at despite all the circumstances, and I'm happy with the growth that I've made. I wish I could have made more. I wish that I was also afforded more opportunities, but you know, in life, things don't always work out, and whatever doesn't work out is just a life lesson. So it is what it is.
I guess in a way you have to try in a way to look at things outside of the box if you can't really grow in the traditional ways now.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why. Like, in the last year, guess how much I've spent on editing?
Well, you were telling me earlier there was a point at which you were spending 20K a month on editors.
Yeah, but that was 20K a month in short form alone.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so in the last year, honestly, I'd say that I probably spent upwards of 300 grand editing. And that's the way that I grew. That's the way that I made it to the point that I'm at in the scene, right? That's the way that I outgrew most others, right? Was literally just because I put in way more than everyone else was, reinvesting everything and just trying to like constantly do these reinvestments because I knew that there was no one that was going to save me, right? There's no one that's going to like walk up to me, say, all right, here you go. And then I just randomly spawn with plus 5K viewers, you know? So that's why I've just been.
You're like actively taking control of your destiny.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. How much, do you know anything about because obviously your name is Dantes, do you know anything about the story of Dantes? You ever looked into that?
No, can't say I do.
That's very interesting to me because I feel like you're someone that uses kind of mythology on Twitter. You'll have like a picture of.
Yeah, I mean, like.
Why have you never explored the mythology of Dantes?
I don't know, it just like never came up. Like I've heard it, like Dante's Inferno, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the whole thing about Dantes is he's basically descends on this journey through it's either the 7 or the 9 circles of hell. It's been a while since I've read it. 9. And he meets a famous poet on the way who's like his guide, who's Virgil, who wrote the Aeneid, which is like a sort of like a sequel to the Iliad, which is about like the war of Troy, Trojan horse, all of that kind of jazz. But yeah, I think you should read about it because it's interesting. It's an interesting journey. It's like probably one of the best mythologies. I would be interested to see how you incorporated it because it feels like to me that you are. I think it would be facetious or potentially over exaggerating it to say that you're going through hells because there is like there are pleasures attached to what you're doing, but you are definitely on a more in a sense if you're the one creating it and labeling it as such. You are on a sort of a hero's journey in a way.
Yeah.
I guess I would ask then, what is the destination of the hero's journey?
The destination?
What do you want?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's like, I say that I want to become the best, you know. I want to hit rank 1. I want to become the best at this, best at that. But the only reason why I say that was for 2 reasons. One was coming from a place of insecurity. It was from saying, you know, like, the better that I am, the better I'll be perceived. So I must become the best. And the other reason why I would say that I was want to become the best was because it gave me like a goal to always work towards. Why am I working towards that goal? I don't know. Like, it's something that I've been like considering more and more recently too, because I remember back in the day, you know, my thing was like, I just want to work until one day I can sustain and have enough to have like a wife and a child. you know? But then it's like, you get a loving girlfriend, right? Who you truly believe would really do anything for you and all that stuff. And then League will still impact you to the point where you almost don't even want to do anything else because the game's so bad. And then it's like, it's this weird situation to be in because you're like, okay, but wasn't League just like the segue into like being able to like raise a family? So why am I like allowing League to detract from that? Because if I have a bad attitude on stream, my stream goes worse and then I make less, right?
Sure.
So then it's like this extremely weird paradox where it's like, what do I really want? And you don't know what the answer is. So it's just like, I guess I'll see over the course of the next few years, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it links back to what you were saying in terms of like personal growth. You're sort of just, you don't really have it figured out. You're just sort of waiting to see what happens, really.
Yeah.
I guess more so like, I'd be interested to see like plans on the horizon you have for the viewers, because we've obviously seen you in recent years branch out into doing things like game shows or things like this. Is there anything overarching that you want to bring to the scene? Change up? Because I feel like there's a weird lack of originality that exists in the streaming space, in that everyone figured out, cool, career trip, let's do it.
So I'll just talk about this because I'll be making a post on Twitter in the next few hours, so it's going to be released anyways. But when I get back to NA, I'm going to be doing a Twitch Rivals-esque.
Like a TCS kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. To try and bring back hype.
If you need an interviewer, you know?
Yeah, I got you.
Just saying.
But yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. That's going to be taking place over the month of December. And then a few more like things as well planned, like another challenger race, beginning of split, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But it's just like, it's just weird because the thing about me is I remember when I first started in the scene, you know, I remember sitting there and like being bright-eyed and sitting there and just being like, you know what, I want to bring something new to the scene. I just want to be the guy who's like the best at what I do, and I want to give the viewers the most entertaining thing ever.
Yeah.
And then it's like you look around and you see like this streamer hates his job, this streamer doesn't respect his viewers, and you're just like, I want to be able to be the best, because if I'm the best, and it shows that the guy who actually cares about giving the best experience actually made it to like the highest part, right? But then it's like, as the years go by, you start to understand
them.
You start to understand them more and more. It's like, when you realize like, oh, so like every day you're gonna stream, and then if you're having a bad day, people will just try to make it worse, or you'll have people
I can relate to this a lot,
you know,
because I think for me, like you're saying, like I started off like wanting to be the best and like bring something new, and I think I have brought something new kind of with what I do specifically. But like the number one thing I noticed as I was coming up is I saw so many people that I like saw that like did something similar to me, and they clearly like hate what they do. But then as I do it more, I'm like, I love what I do still, and I think because it's fresh and I get to have good conversations with people. But it's like I could see myself becoming like these people. And it becoming so tiring and exhausting that I don't put any effort in.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what worries me, is that catching up to me.
No, exactly. And that's why like you have like a good few years usually before that feeling actually starts like take over, and then it starts to become like, all right,
what are you doing now? Because if you're self-aware about this coming, like, how do you prevent this? What are you doing to stop this catching up to you?
Well, that's the reason why I tried doing like a bunch of trips, and I tried doing a lot of stuff. Because, you know, I'm trying to just be like, you know what, if I keep doing all these ships and I keep doing all these like hype different challenges, it just adds something new, you know, it makes it more fun. But then it's almost like in the interim, what do you do then? So I don't know. I
guess it's an annoying thing if you do so many of these challenges. Like, if you the level has to be that high all the time, and it has to get bigger. Because I can imagine if you do another one of these TCSS tournaments, you do another one of these street challenges. People always want to see something new. I think that's what people are calling out for right now, is the new thing. Someone's going to come up with an idea. Like, what is the new thing?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like here, I'll just take credit for it, right? I was one of the people that pioneered the whole like streamers going to another region, Europe especially, because the last time, right, streamers went anywhere was the big like Korea hype last year. When Bows, Tyler, everyone was going, right? This was last summer. And I remember that it was when I'd gone to, I think it was Europe. I think it was when I'd gone to Europe, and I'd gone to Europe. I'm pretty sure it was like around, was it a year ago now? I think it might have been a year ago actually. Um, so when I'd gone to Europe, it was the first time that I'd gone to Europe in person, right?
Yeah.
But before then, I was always like playing on the European
How would you?
region.
I was about to say, how would you play it otherwise? Yeah.
Yeah. So before that, I was always like playing on the European region, right? By transferring my account. And before that, there was no streamer doing that. No one was like transferring their NA account to EU to play on EU. But then it was when I had started that I even started noticing people higher viewer account than me doing it, right? And then it got to a point where it's like even Nightblue started doing it, right? Like Sorbaka as well, you know, who previously were just always just chilling in NA. And then they started going to EU. And then it was then last year, right? Everyone starts going to Korea. Everyone starts doing all this kind of stuff. And then I'd gone to EU as well, you know? And then that's when a lot of people saw like kind of my success with the whole EU trip. And then I remember when I announced my second EU trip, that after that, a bunch of other streamers announced that they were going to EU.
I guess you could say you reignited the train, because I think the first person to do that was T1, no?
TF Blade.
You think TF Blade? Okay, cool.
It was TF Blade who first started the whole rank 1 global journey, but he didn't do it in a way where it's like, because that was something that was kind of new, right? The whole like rank 1 global.
Yeah.
And he was the first guy from what I remember that was actually like going and boot camping different regions. Because like Yasuo had gone to you, you know, Tarzan had gone to you. But in the last like...
Tarzan had come to you and failed.
Yeah.
Me and my boys. Actually, funny stories, as interject, you know, there was a time when Scrub Noob came to EU and he was doing his unranked challenger. He was dueling with a Katarina player called like AZ, something, Spanish guy. And I was the reason he lost his first game, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And, bro, for a bad reason, by the way, because we were playing on the same team. This was like low diamond. And unironically, it seems like the most troll reason, and I think he banned me in his chat because like, I can understand, like, it seems like the most retarded thing ever. So unironically, what happened was my mum overloaded the washing machine downstairs and it overloaded the entire circuit of electricity in my house. So my internet went out for 30 minutes and it came back on, and I messaged him. I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I was just in your game. Because he's lost his first game. He's like 48-0 or something, 49, like Diamond 2 or something, undefeated. And like he literally lost because my internet went out. So I apologized to him and he's like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't believe you. Like, so I feel bad. I'm sorry. Years later, Scrub Noob, if you see this, I'm really sorry for that. It's my bad.
But yeah, so I mean, maybe I didn't like create it.
Pioneer, but you reignited it. I think
reigniting the whole like thing because it's like people have kind of been seeing stagnant viewer counts for years now, you know, especially in the league scene. And then it was when I guess like Korea last year when everyone was coming and they randomly saw their viewer counts 3xing, you know? And then when I had come to you and my viewer count like 10x, right? That people started to really realize, oh, traveling is actually out there. But now it seems that traveling is starting to die down a bit as more people do it.
I guess the theme of what we're talking about is there always needs to be something bigger. And your big thing, and I think more people took interest, was like when you actually got Challenger. Because when you started out, you were this D1 master Hecarim player. Yeah. I remember it was like some of my research I did I was like watching your Reddit posts from way back in the day. It's like funny seeing you arguing with people. People be like, why would we listen to you? You'd be like, listen, I've got thousands of games. Like, I understand how to play this champ. But at the same, you were a shit player. Like, you were a D1 master. Like, but you've reached a level now where you're consistent challenger on majority of the regions you go to. What happens if you reach this rank 1 goal? What is next? Is that not a worry for you? Because after that, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, so that's something a lot of people have asked me. And the only answer I have is like, once you get, like, let's say I do end up one day, you know, like hitting rank 1 NA.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I go to EUNE, rank 1 EUNE. Then, okay, EU West. Rank 1 EU West. Then I say, you know what? Maybe I'll try Korea again. Rank 1 Korea. At that point, all you can really do is say, well, I guess time to start a family. So, like, let's say in the next, I don't know, 2-3 years, I end up hitting all those goals and all that stuff. There's a chance that like 6 months later, you'll randomly see my girlfriend show up, and then she has like a baby bump, and then it's like, all right, guys. By the way, I'm becoming a dad now, because at that point, it's like you already achieved all your goals and all there is. But I'm sure that there's always something new that happens with streaming, right? There's always something new that happens with League. And nothing's ever like stagnant, right? So it's not like you'll just spawn in.
There's not like a need to create the trend if you can just react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes
Yeah,
that makes sense.
but no, I mean, I think that right now things are going well, like in general for the league scene. Definitely a bit stagnant, but it's hard to really.
What do you think are the biggest problems in terms of the streaming world? Because you're someone that's like kind of at the apex of it, and you experience it in person, you experience it behind the scenes on stream. What are some of the? I know you meme about certain things, like you meme about, you'll make jokes about streamers taking drugs, or like the whole there was the whole thing about like streamers getting their accounts banned out here, and that being the whole meme about it being TF players' fault. But like genuinely, if you were to like elucidate or explain to the viewership what the biggest problems in the scene are for you, outside of like, you've obviously spoken about things that are personal to you, but like problems for everyone that you see being a massive issue in the future.
Everyone's lazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that streaming long hours makes you a hard worker. I don't think it does.
I massively agree with this.
I think what makes someone a hard worker is actually using their connections to make good content. And that's something that in the last year, I've seen only 2 league streamers do, and that was myself and Drew Toot. From what I've seen, we are the only ones, right? There was also kind of this like EU challenger race, but that was only done, no way had actually done that. And it was only in response like my NA challenger race that I was doing. But when it comes to like me and Shooter are the only guys actually sitting there and really trying to like set up collabs, set up like tournaments, do all these kind of things. Everyone else is just kind of like, oh, stream 5 hours, then turn off stream, and then that's it, right? It's like no one is actually setting up fun stuff. No one is actually trying to do anything because
no one's pushing beyond the means to their own stream.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're just content with what they have, content with what they built, and then they're leaving it at that.
I think the analogy that I use, I was speaking to someone about this the other day, is that it's like with governments or like feudal king systems. One of the biggest mistakes that people make a lot of the time is they'll look at like this, like for example, like Trump will say something like, "Oh, look at unemployment rate or whatever, like it's massively increased." But like a lot of these times, these trends are tied to like what's happening. Like these trends will be tied to things that like measures that were introduced 15 years ago. So it's disingenuous to say, "Oh, look at what we're benefiting from now." And some of the best like systems in like feudal or like republics, like Roman times, it's because like the previous leaders made changes that like sustained their rule for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't think streaming is that dissimilar in the sense of people don't understand that like the efforts you put in now end up paying dividends in the future. It seems like a very, from a historical perspective, I think people are very laser focused on what's going on now. They'll be like, "Oh, I did my career trip and I 3x'd my viewership, and then that's fine. I'm good. I don't need to work very hard." But I feel like you need to constantly be pushing the boundaries of what is accessible to you.
Yeah, but that's just like a Twitch problem too. Because the problem is like, at the end of the day, YouTube, you post something and it lives forever. If it's good content, it's always
evergreen. I think is the word for it, right?
Yeah, something like that. But TikTok, same thing. YouTube Shorts, same thing. But like Twitch, it's like, as long as you're doing something, your viewer count's skyrocketing. But then if you're not, why are people gonna watch?
Is it difficult for you to remain on all the time?
It depends, bro. Like, it really just comes down to how are the games going. How are the games going? How's my like?
Well, that's the biggest thing for me. I know personally from when I tried to stream, like I never got anywhere with it. And one of the biggest things I think was bad for me is that if I am having a shit day with games, I'm not someone that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So how difficult is it? Because you're transforming your anguish into something that is entertaining.
Yeah, but it's like, so this is the problem, is that people say that. They're like, "Oh yeah, but dude, it's funny when you lose your mind." But the reason...
No, but I'm saying that's a bad thing, because that must not feel great.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Because the thing is, like, the reason why it seems so real is because it is. Like, when I'm there losing my mind, like, it's because I really am. And it's almost like, then it comes to the point where you're realizing that there are some people that are literally only watching you because they want to see you miserable. Like, back when I was doing my subathon, right? I remember there was a point where I was like begging people to stop subbing. I was begging them. I was like, "Guys, like, I really just want this to end." Because I was 11 days in, like, and I would have the camera on me when I sleep. So it's like I would only have maybe half an hour to myself each day where I'd go in the room, shower, and then maybe go hit a 20-minute workout, and that was it, right? So the camera was on me like 22,
Yeah.
23 hours a day.
At that point, it becomes like the Truman Show almost.
Yeah, and the problem with it was that then, like when I'm having a bad day, right, my sleep schedule wasn't good either. So it's like I would be awake for like maybe 8 hours, sleep for 3, awake for another 8, sleep for 3. So it never even felt like I was getting a good night of sleep. It was always like a never-ending cycle, right? And it got to a point where I was like begging my stream to stop subbing, and they were like, "No, like you're our entertainment monkey. You're gonna entertain us."
Dance, monkey, dance.
Yes, literally typing that, like dance for us, like, and it got to a point where it just felt like what it like the I just couldn't believe it, right? And then when I ended the subathon, because it got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm setting it's like 1 second per sub, just so it could end. And I had people like angry, mad. They were like, "Oh, why'd you end it?" But it's like I was literally losing it. And no matter the amount of money I was making during it, right? Because I was making what, upwards of 3,000 a day, right? It was just like I just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Like literally just couldn't take it. And people might not be able to get that. They might not understand it. They might be like, "Oh, you're just some like you should have just stuck it out, whatever."
Yeah.
But it's because at the end of the day, you do it because you have a passion for it.
For sure.
Because you have a passion.
And you feel like you have a responsibility to the people that are watching as well.
Exactly. Like I want to put out good content. If I feel like the content's shit because my mood's awful, like I just can't. That's why even now, like I'm streaming like 3 hours a day. My last days in Korea. Normally, if I'm like actually content with my
11,
grind,
14, yeah.
yeah, like I can really do it. But it's like now I just can't. I'm just at a point where it's like I just need to be home, need to be in my environment, and then I can actually start doing it again.
Reset and rejuvenate, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
You're someone that I feel like candidly talks about their anguish and like the deep dark places like that you've been in your mind but I think the problem is that a lot of people will see those dark places that you've been. The people that appreciate you for you will see it as motivation, but I think a lot of people will see the things that you're typing and be like, oh, it's like a meme, because the way in which you write it is very like there is an element of a joke. You make a joke out of your own suffering on Twitter somewhat.
Yeah.
To an extent, in the sense that it's written in a very like grandiose way. If we were to speak very candidly about it, like what are some of the worst feelings that you've experienced from some of the bad things that have happened to you? Maybe due to like disillusionment with the career trip or like other events that have happened in your life. Because I feel like that's an interesting thing to talk about if you don't have the Twitter function to type it out.
Hopelessness.
Yeah.
Hopelessness. Like that's what it boils down to. So, to give you an example, okay? When the whole Elo Santa thing was happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fact that the guy laughed at me on stream that made me hate him. It wasn't the fact that he brought like the X, whatever. Like all that it was whatever. It was because after it ended, right? There would come times where he'd release a video on me randomly. So, for example, he knew that my name was getting clicks. So at one point I had done like an ad for a smurfing company, right? And he released a video called "My Man Has Fallen to a New Low." And then I'm in the thumbnail doing the ad, right? And he talked about it for like a minute during that video.
Yeah.
And then the problem is that he'll release that video. It'll send hate to my stream. And then I'm confronted with one of two options. One is I don't talk about it, but now I have more people who are going to hate on me and more people who are going to dislike me. And then my second option is try to defend myself. But then if I defend myself, what he would do is he would react to me talking about him and then use that for another video. And it would be this never-ending cycle where it would be make a video, I talk about it on stream, make another video, I talk about it on stream, make another video. And he was releasing, after the whole like cheating scandal, all that shit, like 3 videos a week just on me, right? And I still remember that feeling of like hopelessness of I'll never be able to break out of this,
It's like a cycle.
Yeah. And here in Korea,
how did you experience that? Because presumably that's when you're away from your stream. Like, can you walk me through like maybe how are you dealing with that? Because you're someone that I think has like you have outlets in terms of the gym, but I think
so at the time I didn't.
That's interesting.
Because so when my ex had cheated, I was also undergoing I also had heart problems.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
So because of my heart problems I couldn't lift. So I couldn't lift, I couldn't stream long hours either, and I also couldn't be high energy on my stream because or else I'd push my heart too much. So the 3 things that were like core to me as a person, I couldn't even do.
So how do you deal with it then?
It turns you crazy. I'm gonna be honest. It made me insane. Like it literally just got to the point where it's like you wake up feeling anxious, go to bed feeling anxious, try to like stream a few hours to like combat it, but it's like the way that I coped with it, unironically, is because I said it's a battle between good and evil. And I just told myself
You pulled a duo king. Said all my enemies are ontologically evil.
exactly, because I just said, I was like, what I'm doing is I'm just streaming. And if people are attacking me for it, it's just inherently evil, right? Because I'm not doing anything against them, I'm just doing me, right? So I said I need to always persevere, because by persevering, I give the opportunity for good to win. That's the way I saw it. Like, just pure intention, just want to stream, have fun. And then people trying to tear me down or do all that stuff, that's evil. It gives the option by me persevering for them to lose. And that's what ended up happening, right?
How do you think you won that exchange? Because you're talking about there this immense anxiety that you experienced and manifested in your life.
Yep.
From day to night and not having the outlet for it and feeling as if you couldn't break out of the cycle. But
Yep.
it's fair to say, without a degree of bias, obviously I'm here talking to you, so I'm not... obviously I'm primed to take your side in the way of just making the interview.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fair to say, I think externally a lot of people would agree that you won that exchange just in the sense of, you know, the court of public opinion very much shifted towards your favour. Yeah. Whereas it was a lot more 50-50 before. It was like a very partisan issue. Yeah. How do you think that you won that exchange?
How did I win? By beating him at his own game. Because the first time that I'd gone to EU, I saw it as like an opportunity of like... So, okay, you have to understand a few things. The first time I'd gone to you, it was at a point where I hadn't smiled in months, right? And I still remember that when I was able to stream, my first stream there, and I saw my viewer count went from 400 to 1100. And then my next stream, 1200. My next stream, 1300. And I finally started to see my numbers go up again, because my career was always everything to me. And being able to finally realize, like, maybe I won't have to go back to school gave me the opportunity to be happy again. So then, because I started having a better mood, my TikToks started doing a lot better. YouTube videos start doing a lot better. And then that's also when, it's kind of like, the problem with me is that when I'm stressed, I'm not funny. Because all I can think about is that stress. But once that's lifted, I'm able to be me again. So I was just being funny on stream. I was being me. And then that's when I also started my whole Rizzler thing on Twitter, where I'd randomly comment like pickup lines under e-girls photos, right? And when I started doing that, it's like I was commenting like under 100 posts a day. And I was just giggling for hours, like in my little room that I had in the Netherlands. And being able to be happy, right, gave me that ability to finally unlock myself again. So then I was able to really sit there and be like, all right, now I'm ready to take over. My gameplay started improving.
There's a part of me that just wants to burst into laughter because you're basically telling the story about how you regain happiness by discovering the magic of sexual harassment.
Well, it wasn't listen, nah, it wasn't.
I'm joking.
What it was providing free clout to those that were chasing clout.
Oh, okay. They benefited from it. Okay,
exactly,
I see. Yeah.
But yeah, so no, it was just because like it was under the thirst shop post, you know, all that shit that I would just like troll. So yeah, so it was just like I started to be happy again. My stream started to do better, and then my gameplay started to be better, and then that's when I said, you know what? I'm going after him now. And then that's when I started like ratioing him under his post, commenting under everything, because for so long I just wanted to hide from him, you know, so that he just wouldn't look my way, so that he wouldn't like say shit against me. And then now when I felt powerful again, I was like, all right, now it's time.
When that famous clip of him confronting you and coming up to you
at TwitchCon,
I think the way in which you handled it was dignified. Are you happy with the way you handled it? Is there something you wish you would have said to him?
Well, okay.
Because I can imagine that you were probably happy with the way you handled it, but it's one of those things where, you know, when you have an argument with someone and in the shower later you think, fuck, I should have said that. Was there something you think you should have said, or you don't?
So, okay. You have to understand that by the point that clip had happened, right? When me and him had first had our issues, and when me and him first had our problems, because we were always like very similar, like in terms of how we would be on stream, where we were like the young, energetic, charismatic guys, right?
ADHD.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that we were both like around even viewer count. And then when I'd gotten banned on Twitch for my name for like 2 weeks, he kind of took the lead. Yeah. And then I just fell into this depressive spiral. And then it's kind of like he kept growing. And then he got to a point where it's like when the bullying started, he was like 3K viewers and I was like 800, right? And then at the lowest, he was maybe like 3K around there. And I was like 500, right? But then after Europe, it got to a point where I was like 2.5 to 3K and he was maybe 15 to 800. Okay. Now it's important because then it had come to a head when when I had like posted YouTube shorts and clips talking about what he had done, right? And like the true extent of everything going on. Yeah. And then when that had happened, that's when people started really be like, oh, we didn't realize it was that bad. So then that's when it started to be that he would be around 1K and then I was like growing, right? And then when the TikTok clip happened of him like approaching me at TwitchCon.
There's also another clip of him like flaming some kid's setup that went like mega viral as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because he's always been a piece of shit, right? And people just never confronted him for it because they just like, I guess were happy to be a part of the bully squad and stuff like.
Do you think... Because it's hard for me to say he's a piece of shit because he's not done these things to me. Obviously, externally, I can see what he did to you and I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But do you think in any way he regrets having done what he does?
No, because the thing is, I gave the guy the opportunity 5 times the opportunity to apologize.
But do you think that maybe that apology comes from a place of he doesn't want to submit or it might be guarded by ego? Do you think innately within him there might be a regret?
No. Okay. I think the only regret that guy would ever have is the regret that his career fell to the point that it fell to. Okay. Because of his unwillingness to apologize. I think that's the only regret he would ever have.
I want to circle back to my question because it feels like
so the question was, right? So pretty much when he had approached me, okay, I realized, I was like, okay, the problem is that if I flame him, if I go after him, right, and all these things, then it just gives him ammunition. Yeah. And so I'll explain to you the reason why I went into detail about like viewer counts and all that stuff, okay, in a second. So that's why when it had come up to me, the only thing I said was, I have nothing to say to you. Because I knew if I said anything, it would just be ammo for him. And it would have just been left at that. Except he had posted a TikTok with the caption, "Lil bro's still mad." And I still remember on the plane, because I was on the plane going home at that point, and I saw that. And it was this feeling of just wanting to like retreat again within me, this feeling of just wanting to hide that he had made me feel for so many months. And that's when I said, no, not this time. So that's when I had like stitched his TikTok with my thing, right? That ended up getting like 2.5 million views, being like, oh, this guy had done this, and he tried coming up to me. And then that's when my editors, another wave of things rolled out. And then a few weeks later, Hazmat had released even a video like, Elo Santa is like Two-Face or something like that, right? That got like 500,000 views. And then that's when he really started to suffer the consequences. Yeah. But it's just like, I'm telling you, there's just like this feeling where people who would know will know what I'm talking about, where it's like, you get to a point where you don't even want to be the antagonist, right? And the second you feel any kind of like confrontation, you just want to like escape from that because you've been burnt in the past and you don't want to feel that way again, right? But I just said, like, I can't allow for this to ever happen again. So that's the reason why I reacted.
You feel like you made an example out of him?
Yep. Because I'm a true believer in the idea that eventually, if people have a certain way of acting or a certain way of being or a certain thing like that, that eventually it'll all come full circle. Always, always, always. So if someone makes it their personality, right, to go after others or to start drama with others, because like one of his recipes for growing, he was actually like very weird about it. But one of his recipes for growing was that he would throw out a claim against someone else or start drama with someone, and then he'd post a bunch of stuff about it, and then blacklist that term in his chat. So, for example, at one point he had said Darkwing Jacks DDoSed him, which wasn't true. And then if anyone would bring it up, they would get banned instantly. But he would post that on his like TikTok, his YouTube Shorts, everything to maximize traction from it. And then anyone bringing light to it on his stream was just banned. So it was this weird dynamic in his streams where it's almost like this echo chamber of like people being there, hearing things, just saying okay, and then never questioning anything because they were never given the option to.
So I think that's a thing that happens a lot. Like people need to be given something external to what they're watching to like substantiate it or like actually evaluate it critically.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it's good that you've like. It's interesting hearing that like more of a wider context on that whole drama there.
Yeah.
Has that made it more difficult for you to trust people within the scene, or
I mean,
how did that recontextualize your interpersonal relations?
Well, listen, when it comes to like people in the scene who like I would consider like an actual friend, I could count it on one hand, you know?
Okay.
It's like the problem is that at the end of the day, the problem with the scene is very inherent in the sense that people, by you having viewers, you take away money from other people, right? So even
everyone's always after that top spot.
Exactly.
It's like you were saying before. You had your ban. He slipped up. He went above you. Like
no, that's exactly what it is. So it's like people, you know, they might say, "Oh, you're growing, and I kind of like you, and I'm happy for you," but it's like then there's that part of them that will always be like, "Oh, but what if?" You know.
I think everyone's happy that you're doing well in the race until they see you going past them.
Yeah, and not just going past them, but also like if you go live and then all of a sudden they see their viewer count dip by 100, 200, then it's like, oh, you know. Like I've had very good friends of mine who like would just switch up, you know, because they would see like, oh shit, you know, now he's starting to take some of my viewers.
Have you had any feelings like that? Because I imagine it's a very human thing to not feel like you can escape from that.
I mean,
there's a very famous Gore Vidal quote that I really like that I think you'll enjoy. It's he says very ironically, every time one of my friends succeeds, a little piece of me dies.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like it's a thing where you're happy for them, right? But at the same time, there's a part of you that's like, it's almost like you have a big pie, right? And then you see that someone gets a slice of it, and you're happy that they get to eat it. But at the same time, there's a part of you saying, but what if I was the one to eat that? You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like an inherent flaw within the scene where it's like, you want to see your friends do well, but then at the same time, it's almost
I guess just the pure market share aspect of it means that it is a competition.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's like, it's rare to find people that...
Is part of the reason for that... sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, but I was going to say, so that's the reason why, like, in the scene especially, it's just hard to... It's hard to form, like, genuine friendships because how many of them are genuine friendships and how many of them are pretending to be genuine friendships just so they can, like, maximize the amount of raids they'll get out of you or things like that.
How do you choose the people that you uplift then? Because if it can't be... You're obviously waiting to see if it's genuine, but there are people that you'll help. Who do you choose how to help?
Well...
How do you choose who to help?
Well... It depends.
Because like, you're someone that shares the wealth. I mean, you'll do your game shows, you'll have people on it, you're doing this big streamer tournament soon, and you're obviously providing a platform. How do you choose? Well, who are you trying to help?
Yeah, so the way that I say it is like, especially when I do like game shows or things like that, I view it as like a mutual gain. You know, where it's like, okay, I get to host an event that has like a bunch of people join, and then as a result, I can gain traction out of it, and so can they. So it's like... Mutual gain helps a lot. When it's like mutual gain, then there's like no real hard feelings because how can there be? You know,
that makes sense. I guess bringing it all full circle, we've spoken a lot during this interview about sort of the inner child, the armor you've created, the mistakes you've made, the man you are, why you do the things you are. If you had to describe yourself to someone that never introduced yourself and you didn't want them to externally learn who you were via the stream, who is Dantes at his core? The man, not the idea that you project forwards. At your core, who are you?
So, you know, that's a really interesting question. And it's one that I've thought about a lot, right? And the reason why is because I feel like a lot of people, when they're asked who you are, right?
Yeah.
They'll always answer, generic things. Like, they'll say, oh, I'm studying to become a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm like doing this, doing that, but that's like the what, not the who.
Yeah.
And I guess who I am is just someone who wants to feel like he's enough. That's it. Enough for myself, enough for the people around me, enough for the friends I have, enough for the people who will support me. And that's all. It's just like a person who wants to feel like he's enough.
Is there not then an implicit danger in the chase of greatness that it will never be enough?
Yeah.
And why are you willing to take that risk?
Well, for example, like my girlfriend's a good example of that, because like,
well, love is the biggest risk of all.
Well, not necessarily. That wasn't where I was going to go with
Okay,
that. I was
cool.
going to say more of something where it's like, a year ago I would have said, I'm not going to date until at least 3 to 4 years. But then it's like, there's just sometimes where you get a feeling and you're like, you know what, I'll pursue it and I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
And the thing about me is I'm a very impulsive guy. So it's like, if the feeling's right, then I am willing to sometimes like give up a little bit on like certain ideals I might have held, or certain like plans I might have had, because I'll be like, you know what, maybe this might have some substance to it. So I have the opportunity.
You want to be in the right place for destiny.
Yeah, it's like I'm just a guy who is like, at the end of the day, everything I think helps you grow, because no matter what happens, you grow from it, right? And everything you grow from allows you to get to a point where you need to be, if that makes sense. So you're just always like going through things that you need to go through to get to the point that you need to be at. So that's why it's like sometimes I just let, I guess, destiny take the wheel and then say whatever happens, happens.
Cool. I think that's a very good way of looking at things, and I think it provides a lot more understanding of why you are the way you are. So I think we've done a good job of exploring the man behind the stream.
Yeah.
The man piloting the... What is Hecarim's weapon? It's a lance, right?
It's a glaive, I think.
A glaive.
Yeah.
We've glaved a new path during this interview. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it. I think we've covered some good topics in terms of like where you're going, and I think my goal ultimately with all of these, I think I've spoken about this in all of my interviews, is to give people a kind of a judgment-free zone in which we can explore some of the things that... I think the big topic for me is misunderstanding, where people might be misunderstood, and I think that we've helped. I think I certainly have cleared up some of my misunderstandings about you.
Yep.
I think it's been really good, so I appreciate you speaking to me.
Well, thank you for having me, and
we normally say at the end of the interview, Ruddy up. So 3, 2, 1,
Ruddy
Ruddy up.
up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right, cheers.
All right. Yeah, it was a fun interview.
Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it.